Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video we're going to be talking about thrusting with the medieval sword. Okay, I did a prior video on cutting. If you guys haven't seen that, you should go check that out. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of setting a foundation for other videos that where we're going to be talking about cuts and thrust and different sword and buckler plays and how they apply to sword and shield. This is a Type X sword, very popular with the Normans, and basically it's long, it's very thin, it's fullered, it does have a tip, so it can thrust, but let's talk about thrusting. If I was to use this sword to thrust against something that's fairly stout, like let's say into the chest over mail, okay, as you can see, this sword wants to bend, okay, because it's long and thin. It's not a very good thruster. So the only place that we can really thrust with this sword is in the face. Okay, the same goes for this sword. Okay, this sword is a little bit shorter. It's tapered. This is the type of sword I prefer when fighting sword and shield because I'm on foot. I'm not fighting from a horse. But even with the shorter sword, okay, we can see that that'll work fine for. In the face, that'll work fine if somebody is unarmored, but against mail, that's not going to be very. It's not going to be very effective. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to use the thrust over here. All right. So what we want to do is we make a cut, pull back, thrust. Okay. So basically, the cut was a distraction, so we can pull back because what they're going to do is somebody cuts. If you cut, they're going to basically lift their shield up like this. And that might create an opening for a follow-up thrust. Okay, let's talk about another possibility. If we open up with the thrust, we can follow up with a cut to the leg, right? The middle house. So we got a high thrust, okay, with a middle house to the leg. And typically, when somebody thrusts high, people are going to lift their shield up a little bit to block that thrust. And by lifting it, it gives you a little bit more of an opportunity to cut to the leg. Another way to use your thrust is to disguise it as a cut. So here I'm cutting like that. That's my cut. What I'm doing is I'm bringing my cut in a little short, and then I'm thrusting out. So basically here I'm cutting and then turning that into a thrust. Cut. So that's going to give you a different angle. So that's another way that we can use to the thrust. But the thrust, like I said, is almost always going to be to the face. For the type of combat that we're talking about, which is basically, medieval combat on the battlefield, because we're using war shields here, right? So we're at war. This is not, this is not civilian combat. This is, this is warfare that we're talking about. On the again, if you have a shield wall, if you have a shield wall, the thrust, that high thrust, can be effective. Because I've participated in many battles where we've had thousands of people on each side. The cuts that are done during when you have a large formation are very simple. They tend to be either high Zerchhaus or middle house. Okay, because remember, I have a line of people to the left and right of me that are also striking. It takes a lot of energy to do other cuts. These are the most efficient type of cuts to make. From this position, a high thrust can also be pretty easy to make, which is going to be followed up with a middle house. Okay, so the thrust is something that can be used in a line formation, specifically because it's pretty, especially if you're shoulder to shoulder with with somebody next to you, that can be a really good possibility, because sometimes you may not be able to actually swing your arm, so that high thrust might be the only option that you get if you're really in close with people, especially if you've been encircled. And what happens is a lot of times if you're encircled, the guy to the left of you and the right of you, they start to press in on you, and then basically things aren't going very well for you. But if you're in a position where you're like really pressed up close, that thrust is something that you can still kind of get in there. But there's some thoughts about the thrust. And like I said, the main point of this is that for the type of combat that we're talking about, where everybody's wearing either mail or leather or layers of cloth, you're not going to be thrusting anywhere except the face. Okay, so if you have any comments, please post them. Any feedback you guys have is always appreciated. If you're not a member, please subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time.